بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Welcome to our viewers, watchers and listeners, disciples and disciples, brothers and sisters, to our lesson on Bulugh-Maram fi adillatil ahkam. Let's move forward bidnillahi ta'ala with regards to hadith number 543. Hadith 543 in the English translation. And if you're following in Arabic with this print of the book, hadith number 627, which is the 18th narration of the chapter. The author, rahimahullah, says, number 628, hadith number 19, not hadith number 18. It says, وَعَنْ عَائِشَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى عَنْهَا أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم اكتحل في رمضان وهو الصائم رواه ابن ماجه بإسناد ضعيف وقال الترمذي لا يصح في هذا الباب شيء. Narrated Aisha radiallahu anha, one day the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam used kuhl in Ramadan. He used kuhl in Ramadan whilst he was fasting, i.e. in the daytime, he was fasting. The author says this hadith is collected by Imam Ibn Majah, i.e. in his Sunan, which alhamdulillah is translated into the English language. Bi-isnadin da'if. He says in the chain of narration, the isnad is weak. At-Tirmidhi rahimahullah, he said regarding this hadith, there are no authentic reports on the issue. Once again, Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha wa antaha, she reports that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used something called kuhl, and he was fasting in the month of Ramadan. The author says you can find this hadith in the Sunan of Imam Ibn Majah, and this isnad is not strong. Its isnad is weak. Kuhl, as is pretty well known to most people today, is something similar to mascara, something similar to eyeliner. It is something that the Arabs and others used to do for the purpose of medicine, for the purpose of beauty and adornment, and things like this. Oftentimes they would use it for medicinal reasons, ailments of the eye, sickness of the eye, strengthening the vision of the eye, skin, hair, and the list goes on. Let alone the concept of adornment and beautification. So therefore, this hadith tells us that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he did this, and he was fasting in the month of Ramadan. The wisdom behind this being in the chapter Kitab as-Siyam, why is it here? Is because kuhl is considered to be strong. It's considered to travel through the pores. It is considered to have an effect. It has an effect. If you place it on one part of the body, it will go to another part. So therefore, the concept of that which enters into the body, that which is not food, that which is not drink, that which is not sexual intercourse, but it is considered to, according to some, break the fast because it enters into the insides of someone's body. It enters into the jawf, the internal parts of the human body. And many of the people of knowledge, they say that which enters into one's jawf, one's insides, the internal part of the body, causes the fast to be broken. Let alone if that thing that enters gives nutrition, gives hydration, gives stamina, gives energy to the body. So that's in the beginning. Branching off, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, and building upon this issue, as we always say, tafri'u al-far'i al-asl, building the branch from the root, is the modern day issues that we have in 2017 with regards to eye drops, with regards to nicotine patches, with regards to different tablets and different things that people may take that's not necessarily food, it's not necessarily drink, but it goes into the insides of the body, the internal part of the human body. Does it or do these things, do they or do they not break one's fast? And as we've explained many times before, the modern day issues are based upon the ancient issues. And for someone to be a faqih, for someone to be mujtahid, for someone to be proficient in fiqh with regards to this endless world of technology, of medicine, this endless world of science, breakthroughs, discoveries, this endless melting pot, this huge cauldron of cultures, of races, of ethnicities, societies, of ways of life that we live in today in the Western countries, one has to be well versed, one has to be thoroughly read in the ancient, theoretical, and practical issues. The actual text, the nusus, from the kitab, from the sunnah. The different tafsirat, the aqwal of the sahaba, of the tabi'een. The different deducements, the deductions, the extractions of the four imams, those who came before and after the four imams. The different historical contexts, geographical contexts. Muslims living as those who dominated the land, Ahlul Dhimma, Ahlul Kitab. Alright? You have to know these things thoroughly in order to have a good, thorough foothold in 2017 of eating from McDonald's, of drinking something that's fermented, that's not alcohol, of eating beer-battered fish and chips, of marrying a Christian woman. Okay? Is it permissible for me to shave my beard because the Jews have beards today? Is it permissible? And the list goes on with regards to the different modern day issues because of the melting of cultures and melting of religions. And there are many people today who go extreme. There are many people today who are extremely ignorant, and they become misguided, thinking that it's just based off of the modern era. The fiqh is all modern, and not reading and not studying the traditional, classic and classical text of the ulama of Islam. And the faqih and the mujtahid, the one who gives a fatwa, this is halal, that's haram, you can't do this, you can't have a credit card, you can't have a debit card, a woman can travel on an airplane without a mahram, so on and so forth. He has to be well versed in the past to be well versed in the present, let alone in the future. Khairan inshallah. And the dunya as we know it today, and every aspect and every sphere, every phase of the worldly life of modern novelties is based off of the old. Airplanes, submarines, surgery, technology, the phone, all the internet, satellites, these things are all based off of old things that were refined, that were reformed, revolutionized, synthesized, okay, in which major advancements were made. But the idea of flying, the idea of swimming, the idea of destroying one's enemy with one single piece of armament is nothing new. Nothing about that is new. The concept of surgery, of the inside, nothing about it is new. But there were certain things they didn't have the ability to do back then. Certain restrictions, certain breakthroughs that were not yet made. But everything that you can think of today of a novelty, somewhere, somehow, some way was thought of the past. And that is because the man who made, the woman who created it or invented this and that, this technology's novelty, has come from the mind. It comes from the brain. And the mind, the brain, the heart, these things, nothing about them are new. So this is very important for us never to become deceived and duped and caught up in the modern things and forget about the ancient things as well. Nor are we to get stuck in the past and trapped in the past and forget about the different breakthroughs that Allah has allowed man to have in the modern era. So there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. But in that subhanahu wa ta'ala, there has to be a balance. So therefore, the issue of al-kuhul and its effect on the eyes, its effect on the body, is why we have this hadith in this chapter. As-Sanani rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, ثم قال, he says here, واختلف أهل العلم في الكحل للصائم فكرهه بعضهم وهو قول سفيان وابن المبارك وأحمد وإسحاق ورخص بعض أهل العلم في الكحل للصائم وهو قول الشافعي انتهى وخالف ابن شبرمة وابن أبي ليلى فقال إنه يفطر لقول صلى الله عليه وسلم الفطر مما دخل وليس مما خرج وإذا وجد طعمه فقد دخل وأجيب عنه بأن لا نسلم كونه داخلا لأن العين ليست بمنفذ وإنما يصل من المسام فإن الإنسان قد يدلك قدميه بالحنظل فيجد طعمه في فيه لا يفطر أو لا يفطر وحديث الفطر مما دخل علقه البخاري عن ابن عباس وصله عنه ابن أبي شيبة وأما ما أخرجه أبو داود عنه صلى الله عليه وسلم قال في الإثمد ليتقه الصائم فقال أبو داود قال لي يحيى بن معين إنه حديث منكر. He says here, as far as the ruling of kuhl, then once again the ulama of Islam, they differ. Some of them said that it's makruh. The fasting person should avoid it. Stay away from it. Don't do it. Such as Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, Imam Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and Imam Ishaq ibn Rahawayh. This brief passage right here, it clearly shows us, as we've said many times, is that there are not just 4 Imams in Islam. There are not just 4 Imams in Islam. There were Imams that came before the 4 Imams. There were Imams who lived with the 4 Imams, and there are Imams who came after the 4 Imams. Some of those Imams were greater than the 4 Imams. Now, some of those Imams were equal, similar. And some of those Imams, they were lesser than the 4 Imams. So, the concept of only being 4 Imams in Islam is inaccurate. That doesn't even make any sense. You're talking hundreds of years of Muslims, scholars, countries, conquests, battles, continents, and there are only 4? That's ultimate stupidity for a person to even think like that. In Iraq alone, how many cities do we have? Kufa, Basra, Wasit, Mosul, Baghdad. Do you know how many people lived in Baghdad? How many ulama lived in Baghdad? And for there only be 4 Imams? That doesn't make any sense. For someone to say, well, these 4 were the strongest, were the most knowledgeable, they were the greatest, they had the biggest, so on and so on and so on and so forth. How can you prove that? How can you prove that? Can you scientifically document that and prove that through history? That these 4 men were the best of everyone who came before them, one they lived with, and after them? That's very difficult. Historically, extremely difficult. Were these 4 Imams, were they talented? Were they skilled? Did they have knowledge? Did they have students? Did they become famous? Did Allah extol their dhikr? وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ. There's no doubt about that. Many Imams whose names are household names today. But to say that they were the only ones, the biggest, the best, no one else, we can't say that. So Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, Abdullah ibn Mubarak, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, these names and many others were contemporaries, before, after, whatever the case may be. And they had madhabs, they had students, they had disciples. But some of the things that these 4 Imams enjoyed that the others didn't, is that they had strong disciples, strong students, not weak disciples, Nafis. Strong disciples, what? That carried on their lineage, that wrote down their statements, that recorded, that documented. They put everything down on paper. They memorized it. They paid attention. They devoted themselves to the legacy of this great Imam. And then they processed the madhab. They branched off. They documented. They explained. They summarized. They critiqued until they made it to a detailed system. And some of those other Imams, they may have had disciples that were unloyal. Nafis? They may have had some disciples that were what? Unloyal. Or some disciples who weren't dedicated or weren't devoted. They may have had disciples who were sloppy and careless. They may have had people that didn't write down, that didn't document, that didn't pay attention. Or some of their things may have become lost, burnt, thrown into the river by the Tatars, by the Mongols, by the Mamluks, by the Crusaders, so on and so forth. Museums, houses were burnt, destroyed. Things were lost. Let alone the fact that some of those 4 Imams, their madhabs became a part of the government, a part of the system. They became part of the state, in which this Imam became a qadi, a judge. This Imam, he actually had a mansib, he actually had a position. Everybody understand this? He became an official. He became a minister. He became this. There were some of the different dynasties of the past that adopted a specific madhab, whether it was the Uthmani dynasty, or the Mamluk dynasty, or the Moor dynasty, Spain, North Africa, Andalusia, things like this. Iraq, Baghdad, the different rulers, the different regimes, the different governments that officially adopted these madhabs. Everybody clear on this? There was a brother that we met in Massachusetts, a little bit out of Boston. He sat down and he showed us a book from the old times of the Ottoman Empire. The book was written with the Arabic language, but obviously it's the transliteration of Turkish. when the Turks actually used the Arabic script and not Latin, okay, the Latin alphabet. And he says that this here, my friend, is a what? This is a memorandum of the Dawla Uthmaniyya, of the Ottoman Empire, and the different anecdotes and edicts and the different rulings that they made for their subjects. About clear on this, when the land was conquered, the ulama went, the du'at went, the teachers went, and there were courts. And it was a standard adopted system of fiqh, of qada. Just like the Constitution of the United States. Everybody understand this is a standard system. You can't just do whatever you want in the court system. It's a legal system. So this, without any doubt, is going to become an obvious reason why the Hanafi madhab became so widespread in Turkey and in the countries that the Ottomans conquered, such as what? Current day Bosnia, Yugoslavia, Belgrade, and these different parts, Hungary, different European countries that were conquered by the Muslims of the Dawla Uthmaniyya. So this is one of the reasons why the Hanafi madhab is so what? Rich in those places, why it's so strong, and why it's an integral part of the Islamic fabric. Why is the Maliki madhab so popular in North Africa is the reason why. It's not just because Imam Malik was so great and so knowledgeable. Not saying that he wasn't great and he was knowledgeable, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. Everybody clear on this? It's a reason why. Why the Hanbali madhab is the adopted madhab of Hijaz, of Arabia, of Saudi Arabia. It's a reason why. So therefore, to say that there were only 4 imams, that's total nonsense. And someone say, I'm only going to take from only 4 imams, or the opinions of 4 imams, or I'm only going to take from 1 imam. That's like, as Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah said, I'm only going to take from 1 sahabi. Only 1 companion of the Prophet. That's it. I'm only going to take narration of Abu Hurairah. And other sahaba that live, we're not going to take them. This doesn't make sense. There were hundreds of companions, thousands of companions that narrated things. So how can you say I'm only going to take 1 thing from 1 person? That is not a wise man who's speaking. Everybody understand this? If a person says, I'm going to study 1 way, 1 system, 1 mode, I'm going to become proficient in it, I'm going to devote my time and my effort and my energy to 1 way, that's fine. But if I find something that's better, once I've graduated, once I've finished my studies, then I'm going to take that as well. But nobody's going to restrict himself to 1 way and call and consider himself to be an actual scholar. Mujtahid. If you're pleased with being muqallid, then that's 1 thing. And a muqallid can never be a mujtahid. A muqallid is not supposed to be a qadi, as the ulama have explained. He's supposed to have alatul ijtihad wa adawatuhu. He's supposed to have the tools to make an independent reservation, an independent decision based off of the kitab, the sunnah, and the different tools and the different techniques. Khairan inshallah. So what's important is, as we said, is that there were more than 4 imams. Those 4 imams were special, no doubt. They were talented. They had virtues. But there was more than what? 4. Khairan inshallah. Moving forward. He then says, so these imams, they held the view that using kuhl was makruh. And other ulama, they said there's nothing wrong with it. It's fine. Like Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah. You can use kuhl as long as you wish. Khairan inshallah. The reason why they differ, first and foremost, is this hadith. Secondly, is something that we explained in Masjid Taqwa last Friday. A hadith that states, or not even the hadith here, but it says, al-fitru mimma dakhala wa laysa mimma kharaja. Just like the hadith that says, al-wudu mimma kharaja wa laysa mimma dakhala. The exact opposite. That says, al-fitr, breaking the fast, is for that which enters and not from that which exits. And wudu is from that which exits and not that which enters. Khairan inshallah. They say that a person will receive the taste of the kuhl. The kuhl will enter the ears, the throat, the nose, and the eyes. All means of things entering into what? The body. And also things what? Exiting the body. Everybody clear on this? Khairan inshallah. So therefore, what's important is we have 3 things that are clear and lucid. Eating, drinking, sexual intercourse, and that which is included in these concepts. That which is food, whether you take it by mouth or any other way of it entering into your body, but it gives nourishment. And that includes needles, tablets, pills, sprays, patches, anything that gives hydration, energy to the body. Everybody understand this? Whether it's food, drink, or something that's what? مَا يَقُومُ مَقَامَهُمَا. That which is of the same what? Genre of what? Food and drink. Everybody clear that which is the same genre of what? Food and drink. And they say, some of the ulama, they say the simplicity of this is that which is not food, that which is not drink, and that which does not fulfill the purpose of food and drink does not break the wudu. Whether it's a needle, blood transfusion, blood exchange, blood test, anything that does not do the work of what?
Breaking the wudu.
Food and drink. Of what? Food and drink. And they say if you put kuhl, it's the kuhl, they say no one is trying to eat kuhl. It's not a food that you eat. It's not a taste, let alone it doesn't give nutrition. It doesn't give nourishment. So therefore, the simplicity of these three things, food, drink, and intentional food, intentional drink, and sexual intercourse. We've explained this issue a few other times with regards to al-jawf, the insides of a person, and the different issues that branch off from this at the conference and other places as well. Khairan, inshallah. Let's move forward. So based off of this, we will understand that if a woman was fasting and she wore kuhl in the house, a woman should not wear kuhl outside of the house. As we've explained before, you should not wear makeup outside the house if your face is uncovered. If you do not wear niqab or burqa or veil on your face, you should not wear makeup outside of the home. And to beautify yourself and adore yourself, it should not be done outside of the home. So if a sister puts on kuhl and she's inside of the house, then we benefit that it does not break her fast, according to those ulama. Everybody understand this? Or mascara, or eyeliner, or lotion, some type of cream on the body that enters into the what? The pores. Does not necessarily what? Break the fast. So this one issue, this one hadith, a properly trained faqih can take 100 modern day issues and what? Build on it. And he can be in Australia, he can be in Cape Town. Everybody understand this? He can be anywhere of Allah's spacious earth and give fatwa based off of the principle. Everybody clear on this? And the exact opposite as well. He can take the view that it does break the fast. Anything that enters into the body and you'll find the taste of it in your throat, in your mouth, does what? Break the fast. Everybody understand this? Of a million modern day novelties. In space station, satellite, submarine. Everybody understand this? This is how the Islamic system of fiqh what? Works. Moving forward. The next narration, the author rahimahullah ta'ala says, وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من نسي وهو صائم فأكل أو شرب فليتم صومه فإنما أطعمه الله وسقاه متفق عليه وللحاكم من أفطر في رمضان ناسيا فلا قضاء ولا كفارة وهو صحيح. The next narration, the author rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, hadith number 544 in English translation, 629 in Arabic, 20th hadith of the chapter, is narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ says, Man nasiya wa huwa sa'imun. He says, anyone who forgets while fasting. Anyone who forgets while fasting. فَأَكَلَ أَوْ شَرِبَ. And thus eats or drinks. One is fasting and accidentally drinks. One is fasting and accidentally eats. فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ. He should not have to make up the day. وَلَا كَفَّارَ. Nor does he have to pay in expiation. Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, the author, says this hadith is authentic. This is authentic. The hadith once again tells us is that if you're fasting and you unconsciously pick up a bottle of water, if you're cooking some food in your house and you unconsciously take a spoonful and swallow it, not tasting the soup, that's a different issue. But you actually swallow it. It smells good. It looks good. Nah? You say, alhamdulillah, you eat this. Oh, subhanAllah, I'm fasting. I forgot. You accidentally, by nature, you're making tea. And you're used to what? Taking the first cup before anybody else. And you forgot. And you drunk the tea. Everybody understand this? You have to spit it out. Hadith says Allah fed him and gave him drink. You spit it out, then what? Allah didn't feed you. Sahih? Hadith says, then he should do the following things. He says, فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ. He says, then let him what? Finish. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla is what? The one who what? Gave him that food and gave him that drink. Another version of the hadith says, then there's no making up of that day. Nor is there any what? Kafara. Let's say you ate an entire cheeseburger, Ahmed. Huh? You didn't remember you were fasting until you finished the last pickle. You ate everything. One pickle left. Then you said, whoa, subhanAllah, I'm fasting. One may say, how is this possible? Allah knows best. He ate the whole what? Not a bite, not two pieces what? The whole, and it's a halal cheeseburger, inshallah. He ate the entire cheeseburger and he had one pickle left. Then he remembered what? It dawned on him, the light bulb, bing, popped in his head that he was what? Fasting. What does he have to do? The Prophet says, فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ. Let him what? Finish like nothing what? Like nothing happened. Leave the pickle alone, inshallah. They can't eat the pickle. Everybody clear on this?
That sounds more like Tariq.
The hadith says what? فَلْيُتِمَّ صَوْمَهُ. It says, then let him finish his what? Fast. Why is this? Because you were sinful. Shaitan came to you. Because Allah what? Gave you a treat. Everybody understand this? Because Allah Azza wa Jalla is the only one who did this. Khayr, inshallah. That's in Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Outside of Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim is another version that says, Man aftara fi Ramadan nasiyan. In Ramadan. Because one may say this hadith is only pertaining to voluntary fast. One may say this only pertains to what, Khalid? Voluntary fast. This version clearly says fi Ramadan. In what? Ramadan. It's the benefit of gathering all of the what? Versions of one hadith. Gathering all of the data, all of the evidence to determine who is the actual criminal and not the one who's suspected of the crime. Everybody understand? This is a very important concept, especially in modern Western culture. Forensics, Sherlock Holmes. This is real. That someone who's innocent may be charged with something that he what? Didn't commit because of lack of thorough what? Investigation. Lack of what? Thorough investigation. This is something that the Muslims were doing what? Hundreds of years before England, before France, before Germany, before America. Everybody understand this? The Muslims were doing this. The ulama of hadith. Thoroughly investigating one hadith and gathering all of its what? Side variations. Khayran, inshallah. And as we were just speaking about the four imams, something similar to this, all of the authentic hadiths are not just in Bukhari and Muslim. That's another mistake and error that people think. Every hadith that's authentic is not what? In Bukhari and what? Muslim. And anything that's outside of Bukhari and Muslim does not mean that it's what? That it's weak. Doesn't mean that it's what? Weak. Khayran, inshallah. طيب. Moving forward. As-Siyam rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, listen carefully to what he says. He says, وَوُرُودُ بِلَفْتِ مَنْ أَفْطَرَ يَعُمُّ الْجِمَاعِ وإنما خص الأكل والشرب لكونهما الغالب في النسيان كما قاله ابن دقيق العيد. The hadith says what? Or before that is another version that says وفي رواية الترمذي فإنما هو رزق ساقه الله إليه. In the Jami' of Imam al-Tirmidhi, the same hadith, he has another part that says the food and the drink is something that Allah gave him as rizq, provision and sustenance that Allah gave him. Now listen carefully. The version of Al-Hakim says, Man aftara. It says, he who makes iftar. He who breaks his or her fast. And in Sahih Bukhari it says, فَأَكَلَ أَوْ شَرِبَ. Eating or drinking. There's a huge difference between these two wordings. One wording says, anyone who does what? Breaks the fast. And another wording says what? Eats or drinks. في فرق. There's a huge difference and there's a major ruling between these two wordings. Anybody know? Fadal. Other ways of breaking the fast of eating, besides eating and drinking. Right? Such as sexual intercourse. As we mentioned in the conference. Is it possible for a Muslim to have sexual intercourse forgetfully in Ramadan? Some people say yes, others say no. Some people say it's impossible for a person to do it and finish and continue in a state of forgetfulness. And some ulama, they may say it's possible. What's important is one part of the hadith says if you eat or you drink by accident out of forgetfulness, then there's what? No sin, no worries. But one may say if you have sexual intercourse, then what? You have to make up the day Not necessarily saying you have to make up the and you have to expiation. He says, the version of Al-Hakim says, Man aftar. He who breaks his fast includes anything which is what? Breaks the fast. Everybody on this? A needle, IV, that gives nutrition, food, drink, and or sexual intercourse. Everybody understand the fiqh ruling that pertains to the two different wordings? The difference is you saying you were there at 9 o'clock and you were there at what? 9:15. There's a huge what? Huge difference. The detective asks you, where were you at 9 o'clock? Everybody understand this? Or you at 9:10, 9:15. It's a huge difference. Everybody understand this? Khairan inshallah. So therefore, this is an issue of khilaf among the ulama. He says, the only reason why the Prophet ﷺ said eating and drinking is because that's what happens in most cases. In most cases, a person will forget about what? Food and drink. Forget about what? Food and drink. But it takes a bit more or a higher level of forgetfulness to actually have intercourse. There's no doubt about that. Whether you say it's plausible or not, but it takes a higher level of what? Heedlessness. It takes a higher level of what? Heedlessness. And somebody may argue and say the exact opposite. Khayr inshallah. Moving forward. والحديث دليل على أن من أكل أو شرب أو جامع ناسيا لصومه فإنه لا يفطر ذلك لدلالة قوله فليتم صومه على أنه صائم حقيقة وهذا قول الجمهور وزيد بن علي والباقر وأحمد بن عيسى والإمام يحيى والفريقين وذهب غيرهم إلى أنه يفطر أو يفطر قالوا لأن الإمساك عن المفطرات ركن الصوم حكم من نسي ركنا من الصلاة فإنها تجب عليه لعجز وإن كان ناسيا وتأول قوله في الطيب. He says here, this hadith clearly proves and shows us that anyone who does something out of forgetfulness, then his fast remains what? Valid. Now pay close attention, guys. Pay close attention to this hadith and this issue. And that is, this hadith is considered to be a maxim of fiqh, a qa'idah, a major pillar of the Islamic legislation. And that is that which you do forgetfully. You did not do it intentionally. You actually forgot. Honestly, there's no what? There's no sin. Number one. Number two is that you are to do what? Continue in the act of ibadah. Number three, you don't have to pay an atonement or do something later on. The concept, how many issues can we branch over this Khalid? If the dunya goes to 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, no matter where you go, no matter what they make, I accidentally did this on my iPhone. I actually did this in my car, my spaceship. You understand this? A bank card, a bank account, a camera. No matter what type of technology or system is made, if it's done by accident, then there's what? No sin. Everybody understand this? This is a major qa'idah of the deen. And this is one of the most important tools of the faqih and of the mujtahid. No matter what fatwa he's asked, a person says, Shaykh, I accidentally did this to my wife. I accidentally divorced my wife. I accidentally gave this. I accidentally said this. I accidentally disrespected this. I accidentally kada. What tawbah do I have to make, ya Shaykh? I accidentally cursed Allah. The faqih is going to say what? No sin upon you. Because it was what? In nasina aw akhta'na. This is a very important rule of Islam, is that nothing is haram when it's done out of forgetfulness. Don't forget this principle, guys. Everyone understand this? And as a layman Muslim as well, this can save you from a lot of heartache, a lot of stress, a lot of worry. Many people, they ask questions that can easily be answered through basic principles. If you did it out of forgetfulness, then there's what? There's no sin upon you. Nor does it necessarily mean that the act of ibadah for which this thing cannot be done was broken because you did it out of forgetfulness. Everybody clear on this? Khayr, inshallah, we'll stop here tonight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best.